Welcome to the Great Girlfriends podcast, where we discuss life, love, laughter, and everything in between. I am your host, Sybil, and I'm so excited to be here with you today. So grab your pen and paper, grab a great girlfriend, get situated, and let's get into the show.
OMG, great girlfriends. We are here with a very special treat. Someone I met in November who, really struck a warm spot in my heart from the beginning of our conversation at the Strand for an event with Chameleon Coffee. And I want to shout out Chameleon Coffee for bringing together a host of entrepreneurs to share a creative space and talk the stories, the struggles, the growth, all the things that make entrepreneurship so real. I'm introducing to you today Christina Carmona, who is the founder of Island to Eastside. Hi, Christina.
Hi, thank you for having me and for that beautiful intro.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you. I am. Island to Eastside is a really cool company, great girlfriends. We've got contemporary custom clutches and beach totes, like for every day, for your razzle dazzle moments, for your on the go, for your gifting, for your travel. And they are just such a compliment to every girl's wardrobe. But more importantly than that, Christina, I feel like it's a reflection of like your spirit.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I think that our brand represents, inclusivity and just being fun and lighthearted. And I guess the fact that anything goes, and when you customize something, anything does go. So I guess I would agree with that.
Yeah. You know what's so cool about the brand and about you? When I met you at the Strand, I feel like it all made sense. I feel like, a lot of times people say, does my brand look like me? Does it feel like me? Is it true to who I am? and it was I think it's a very cohesive reflection of like your bright spirit, your zest, your warmth, your desire for women to really feel special and to be seen. And that signature piece is just something that every woman can take with them. But I want to learn, from you, Christina, how did you, come up with the concept for your company? How did you even leap into entrepreneurship? What were some of those migrative steps you took?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you. And was it the head to toe green suit that had anything to do with you, with you thinking that I had a bright spirit by any
the
chance?
suit was everything. I was like, who's that girl? Oh my God.
So I have been in the fashion industry since I graduated college, and I leaped right into a very corporate atmosphere right out of college. I was in sales for the entirety of my career, and I loved the industry. I loved what I was doing. The piece that was missing for me was, I guess, the ability to determine my own success and my own destiny. And I really wanted I always wanted more out of my career, more. I wanted to do more work. I wanted more freedom, more autonomy in my role. And as time went on, I jumped in a pretty short period of time to 4 different corporate companies. And I just wasn't finding what I was looking for to really feel fulfilled in my role. So I decided that I needed to come up with a little passion project for the side. And I started my own apparel boutique, which was mainly e-commerce. And I did a lot of organic promoting through social media, mainly Instagram. And these bags were a piece of what we sold in our shop. And it's really what took off, and what the customer responded well to was any of these personalized items. And that is kind of how we developed this niche. But as like a leader and as an entrepreneur, I guess, it's not even really about the product for me. It's more about having the ability to create this environment that I felt like I was so lacking in corporate for, other young females. I have a team of 3 females full time. And that's really what I love about this journey.
I love that. It's so interesting because you make it, and it's probably moons ago, which makes it sound easy for you to kind of recap. Like when I started, I leaped into this and I went into e-commerce. What were the transferable skills that you took from your corporate career? Like, how did you know where to start and how to, make those kind of that entree into e-commerce?
I actually love this question because anytime that I've spoken on like publicly on a podcast or a panel, I always get the question like, why didn't I start sooner? Or like especially from a lot of like college students, like, how can I start my business right out of school? And I will tell you that I believe you can. I don't like to ever say never, but from my personal experience, the skills and the experiences that I had corporately truly made me learn, how to lead, how to be the leader that I do and don't want to be. I feel, right? Because it's like just as good as to learn how you don't want to be as it is to learn how you do.
That's right.
And I would say like the most important thing that I learned is how to motivate people, how to understand what makes people tick and how to look at someone's skill set and, understand how to challenge them and mobilize them.
They say that the first few jobs that you have after college are just extreme internships. They're externships.
Yep.
I will say, because you don't know, right? You've gone through school your entire life, and then you go through college and you take on an extra 4 years or whatever that amount of time. And then you get into the real world where most of what you learned in university is not like really skill, it's theory. And then it's time to appropriate this theory. And you have no clue. And so people are, really trying to pick up pieces and figure things out. I love the idea of taking those years or that year, whatever that time frame, to really hone in on a skill set, right? To get something solid that you feel you really are passionate about using and even learning business real time.
Totally. Learning how to talk to people, learning how to navigate politics and cultivate strong relationships with, your peers and managers and subordinates. I feel like all of that when you're, running your own business, there's really no manual or no directory on how to, conduct yourself. And I think if I hadn't seen other people around me do it firsthand and then have the experience, quite frankly, on someone else's dime to practice it, I don't think that I would have been able to do this right out of college. I was too green. I wasn't experienced enough.
Yeah, for sure. So when you started your company, how did you learn to ask for help? What help did you ask for? What did you think you knew you needed versus what you actually needed? What were some of those pieces for you?
Well, I'm still learning how to ask for help, and I'm still learning how to ask for more and more help because I will admit, and I think that this is characteristic of most entrepreneurs, when something's your baby, it's really hard to let go control of it and, really to put like your dream and your vision in someone else's hands. But obviously you learn very, very quickly that it's also not possible to achieve it without the help of others. So I constantly am challenging myself to ask for help and ask for help from the right people. And I think, I think as I've learned to trust myself more, it's helped me with trusting others. Again, just like really building strong relationships with my team has obviously helped with that. I have one person on my team who started with us just about 2 years ago. And I actually was just having a conversation with her about when she joined the team, how, I micromanaged her. I would almost do everything with her. And now we're at the point, 2 years later where I don't even need to know what she's doing. I just know she's doing it. And I wouldn't be where I am without her. So I guess through a lot of practice and through a lot of trial and error and trying to trust yourself, that asking for help definitely becomes easier.
Yeah. What are one of those moments that you hit where you knew you were in over your head as the leader of your company and you needed like business mentorship or a little bit of a little bit more guidance from the outside? Have you ever had one of those moments?
I feel like I literally have one of these moments quarterly. I feel like this journey is like a set of stairs with, you have a plateau where you get to a point where you're like, oh, that was really hard, but I'm going to be good for a little while. And then just when you start to get comfortable again, there's that other push of like, oh God, I'm in over my head again. How am I going to figure this out? So yes, I feel like that happens to me very often, which I've learned to tell myself that just must mean that I'm growing and we're growing. So that's great. But I think specifically within like the financial aspects of like the responsibilities that come along with, being an entrepreneur, hiring people, being responsible for other people's salaries, and then making large financial decisions that will ultimately not just impact you, impact your team. Yeah. I feel like for me personally, that's the most where I'm like, oh boy, this is a big responsibility. I'm not sure I signed up for this.
You're like, what? Can I do this? Am I capable? Isn't that sort of that moment where imposter syndrome kind of sinks in? Like, yeah, you're in over your head. This is not where you're supposed to be. You're not the person you think. Really, right? And you start having those conversations like, am I in too deep?
Yep. Yeah. And it happens, like I said, I think really, really often.
Yeah. What's like one of the best pieces of advice your business mentor has given you when you hit that sort of, that stuckness?
This isn't really like a piece of advice that she had given me about like when I hit like a roadblock, but she did tell me at one point that when you get to a certain point in your career, you're not really like managing things anymore. You're managing people, and you almost become like a therapist to other people. Yes. And that's always stayed with me because I feel like, again, I think that's why just people and my team is so important to me, because I know that I wouldn't be able to overcome those roadblocks and those moments of like, crap, I'm in too deep if I didn't have the people around me to turn to, and if I didn't, really understand them. So I guess I feel like that's been the most valuable thing to me, that like I believe truly if I understand my team, their individual goals and what motivates them and what they ultimately want to achieve, that like we will establish a better mutual trust between one another, and they'll kind of help me when I feel stuck, and I'll always help them when they feel stuck.
That's so true. That mutual trust is so important, because that allows people to sort of have the bandwidth to try new things, to innovate their processes and not feel like, they're going to be penalized for, overstepping a boundary. Or if they see a gap, they can fill it in, and you can know that you're covered, and then you have the bandwidth to be the visionary.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. So and if you don't allow people that like space and room to step out and step up, then, they're never going to be able to step into their fullest potential. And you're right. It takes like an enormous amount of trust to, to allow that as a leader, but also, as someone less experienced, I've experienced this with girls on my team before, where they almost need that extra push or that extra nudge of confidence. Like, you can do this. And if you mess up, it's going to be okay. Like, and I'm going to still support you.
That's so good. So, because, when what a lot of people will understand as entrepreneurs, your brand is your baby. And you always want, that brand experience for consumers to be top notch, and you want the reflection of the product to be so amazing. And so that trust is a big piece where a lot of people get stuck, because they don't know how to let go so that the brand can become something bigger than a passion project.
Yep.
But you've managed to do that. And now you've hired a team and you've probably, I mean, when I look on the site, I see endless numbers and different styles of clutches and totes, with colors and embellishments that are just so unique and beautiful. Are you still like at the forefront of design, or do you have someone there?
I am still at the forefront of it, but our creative director, Hannah, has really, really stepped up and owned a lot of the aesthetic of the brand. So I can't take full credit. I will definitely give it where it is due.
I love that. So for you, as a person who is the head of your brand, and, when you start a brand, you're the head of accounting, you're the head of legal, you're the head of partnerships, you're the head of marketing, you're e-commerce, you're all those things. What have you learned about your own personal strengths and weaknesses?
I think that I've learned, I don't know if I've even really learned this. I always have known that I've been more of a creative thinker and less of an analytical one. And obviously, as you just stated, owning your own business, you have no choice but to learn the ins and outs of certain legal matters or finance. And that was something that if I had the choice to not get involved in, I would choose not to, but I've learned, I've learned so much. And, it's interesting kind of now. That's the stuff that I almost enjoy, I think, because it makes me feel more empowered that I now know something I didn't necessarily feel comfortable with before.
I love that. It's so true. And then your competency is higher. And you're able to, I feel like for me personally, I'd always talk, if you ever listen to the podcast and go back, I'd always talk about the accounting department and how much I love anyone's accounting department, but I despise having to do it personally, but I like the numbers right? So stewardship, there's a certain amount of stewardship that's mandatory and a certain amount of knowledge that's mandatory as a leader, just to be able to have a landscape view of what's happening and understand it.
Totally. And I really do believe now if I were to give advice to someone who is trying to start their own business, I mean, I wish I got as in the weeds with the numbers as I am now when I first started, or like even a year earlier, because it makes a really big difference. And I do think, like I said, it's very empowering as an entrepreneur to know the ins and outs of the numbers of your business. And it's so important. Yeah,
for sure. So for you personally, as an entrepreneur who you're not just about your business, you have a really, oh my goodness, I loved the support of your circle that we experienced at the event powered by Chameleon Coffee for entrepreneurs at the Strand. It was just beautiful to see your circle there supporting you and cheering for you. And you talk about them being the ones that keep you. So you're not just an entrepreneur, you're also a woman who has a big circle of people who love and adore you. You have family, you're a New Yorker. How are you creating the harmony you need to be able to have a happy quality of life, that's well-rounded?
Oh, again, such a hard question. And I feel like this is a challenge I face every single day. I try just so hard to maintain good boundaries. Obviously, and I would be lying if I said anything else, that, my business is my number one priority, and it can very easily be all consuming, but I try really hard with a lot of discipline to set good boundaries with it. And I try to also, instill that in my team too, because it is important, as you just said, to kind of maintain that balance, which I feel like is such it's like an enigma. How do you balance it all, right?
Oh my God. Yes. I've learned, I'm like, it's just not I don't balance. I personally put myself where I need to be when I need to be there. And so that I can be present. I give my all there. I then go to the next moment and I'm there. Yep. When I'm in the car dropping kids off for school, we're there together. There's no calls. When I drop them off, I'm on my first call. When
Yeah.
I get back home, the dog goes out. There has to be sequence of
Totally.
events,
Yeah, and it's just like I said, and you're saying it too. It's being disciplined with yourself almost, right? Because
Yeah.
especially when you're an entrepreneur, no one's, for the most part, managing your time. You have to do it for yourself. And I think
That's right.
it's been, it's not, I feel like maintaining balance isn't something that you like get to and then you're like, aha, I've maintained balance. It's
Right.
something you constantly have to work on.
It's true. So for you, is there a great morning routine or one thing you do in the morning? And is there one thing you do in the evening that is habitual for you?
There really isn't. I am working hard to establish one, but there really isn't. I feel like sometimes, and this is definitely just a personality trait of mine, that too much structure kind of sometimes makes me actually not do the thing that I want to do. So I try to be like 80-20 when it comes to my routines and, not expect that 100% of the time I'm always going to be 100%. But all the good things like meditation, I absolutely love breath work. I love going to the gym. Those are like things that I always, set time aside for just me. Journaling, constantly goal setting. And I'm not like really a big person on like resolutions because I feel like you can make them at any time, but constantly just like referring back to my goals and seeing like what little steps I can take to get like one step closer rather than being so extreme with them.
I love that. So what's one word of advice you would leave for the listener who is at the idea phase of her business? She wants to start it. She thinks it could be a passion project, not really sure how to start. What would you say to her?
I would say that perfection is the enemy of profit. And I know that you want to be so perfect in everything you're doing right now. And you want to do it all yourself. You think you could do it all yourself. And you don't want to let this idea out into the universe and go until it's perfect. But it's never going to be perfect. So just release it, start trying, and, get going on it, get feedback on it. Don't allow perfectionism to hold you back.
Oh, so good. I love that, Christina. I heavily relate. I wish I had you in my ear probably 15 years ago.
I wish I had me in my ear 15 years ago too.
Right. Because don't we know that now? Like, yes. Yep. Oh my goodness. Okay. So for the great girlfriends who are ready to shop Island to Eastside and who are ready to keep up with you on social media, where can they find you?
They can find us on Instagram and Pinterest at Island to Eastside, and they can visit our website, www.islandtoeastside.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Christina, for joining me today. Thank you, Chameleon Coffee, for placing us together for these beautiful entrepreneurial stories. I'm hoping that every listener will gain strength, gain courage, and confidence for the journey ahead. And Christina, I'm wishing you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This was great.
My pleasure.
Great girlfriends, did you enjoy this week's episode of the podcast? If so, would you please give us your amazing review on iTunes? Every single review helps another great girlfriend get plugged into the podcast, into the community. Speaking of community, make sure you join our Facebook group, The Great Girlfriends. You follow us on Instagram at The Great Girlfriends and on Twitter at @the_greatGFS. Last but not least, we'd like to thank my amazing husband, Kwaku, Sam and Dilly, and all of you for being a part of the global community that makes us so strong. Please remember to share with your friends, keep listening, and keep being a great girlfriend. I'm Sybil Amuti, and I'm out. Peace.